All right, well, now that we are just about to kick off, hello everyone, I'm Morgan Rice, and I'm so excited for you all to be joining us today. Um, Thank you, first and foremost, for joining us to learn about mentoring, and thanks for taking time out of your day for joining us. Today, we're going to walk you through our mentoring feature, what it does, how it works, and how it's helping communities just like yours, and how you can foster deeper and more purposeful engagement. We'll start with a bit of context here, then we'll move into a live demo and wrap up some real world examples and implementation tips from both Jake and Jan. So just so you're all aware, we've reserved 10 minutes at the end for some Q&A. So drop your questions in the chat box below if you click that Q&A button. And then we'll be able to answer those on the back end, myself and Allie on our team, and then Jake and Jan at the end. So without further ado, Jake, over to you.
Thank you, Morgan. So, if any of you signed up for today's meeting, you might be wondering, why am I here? Why mentoring? And I think honestly, it feeds really well into Hivebrite's broader mission, powering communities, helping them thrive, helping you maximize your impact with all of your constituents. Mentoring is really one of the most human-centered and scalable ways that we can help you do that. So I think there's a lot to talk about here. When it comes to really what is mentoring, this is Hivebright's structured way to connect members for growth, support, and shared learning opportunities across your network in a really organic way. It allows you to design programs that can match members either through admin-driven matching or by self-selection if you want to put the onus onto your community members. But you still have the ability to define preferences, manage communications, track outcomes, and really tailor a space where both mentors and mentees feel supported to their own needs. You can kind of think of it as creating a high trust level micro connection in a sense that leads to high impact community outcomes. But the thing is, mentoring's powerful. And with any powerful tool, we don't want you running around with any bandsaws without instruction. And it is definitely best when usage of the module in this case is intentional and thoughtfully designed. So, yeah, there's our sad puppy. We matched everyone, nothing happened. This is not the most uncommon case for overeager adopters of the mentoring module, I would say. This might be a familiar case. You've set up a mentoring program, you've gone out of your way to match people, and then you're met with crickets. And that's because successful mentoring can take more than just matching. You really need to be methodical about defining your goals, communicating your expectations, and supporting your members, mentors, and mentees along that journey. That's why mentoring strategy really is so important, focusing on clarity, communication, and consistency across your entire curriculum. In the next slide here, we're going to show you exactly how to make that happen. So we've actually got two modes of driving matching across the mentoring module. The first is admin matching. This program needs to be personalized through oversight and curation. You're really taking the wheel as a mentor, or excuse me, as an admin, to create the most valuable possible mentor-mentee matches across your community. And you're taking really a driving hand in making that happen. The other option is user matching, where you're really empowering mentees to choose the right mentor for their needs. You're opening the floodgates in a sense. You have a community of mentors available for mentees to browse, and then they can submit to that experience and, if they're accepted, continue down that path. So, regardless of how you're actually going to be matching folks up, there are a couple of key use cases that I think are worth zooming in on a little bit. We've seen Hivebrite customers use mentoring in a vast number of ways, creative, impactful. There's really no limit to how you could potentially leverage this tech, but here's a couple of the more common use cases that we see. The first would be alumni mentorship programs. This is a case where you might have graduates supporting students or early career peers. It's a great way to give people a bit of a lifeline as they're taking that leap from university into the real world. The next would be peer-to-peer onboarding, especially in enterprise or volunteer-led communities. This is another great way to make sure that you're giving folks the right amount of support, not to mention in more virtual instances, if you've got a work from home environment, can be really great to give people a little bit of extra human to human connection. Another use case we see have a lot of success is affinity-based mentoring. This is a little bit more vague in terms of how you're pairing people up. It could really be by identity, by career path, by shared experiences. As long as there's that common thread, there is certainly merit for building a mentoring connection. Followed by that, there are executive coaching or leadership development opportunities. These can sometimes be paid opportunities. There's certainly a higher value attributed to them. And then skill-based matching for professional growth. If folks are really looking to take that next step in their career and they're looking for a mentor to help Sherpa them along. Really, the flexibility of the feature is what makes it so adaptable across industries and communities. And I would encourage you all to let your imagination run wild as far as how mentoring might help benefit your community. With that in mind, how does mentoring fit into your community strategy? Well, I think a big part of that is making sure that you're actually designing a mentoring program that works and feeds into your broader community needs. To make mentoring successful, you really need to think of it as a life cycle. It's not a one-off setup. It's not a set it and forget it. There are really, I would say, 5 pillars that you want to consistently monitor and focus on as you're driving these high-performance mentoring programs. So the first one would be recruiting. You want to make sure that you're actively promoting the opportunity and collecting mentor-mentee interest to make sure you have viable pools of both mentors and mentees to start pairing up together. A mentoring program really only goes as far as that. Once you do have that pool of interested folks, you can actually move to the matching phase. That's really where the rubber hits the road. You'll be able to use profile data or program information to create strong pairings and make sure that people are really getting the most out of this experience, and whoever they are paired with is jiving them with them in a way that's bringing real value to the mentoring uh, curriculum. Next up, you'll want to make sure that you're guiding those relationships along, even after a mentor does take ownership of the program itself. We still want to set expectations, provide structure, especially early on before we have mentors going rogue or frankly, maybe just forgetting about their mentees and losing sight of the broader program. And this is ongoing. In addition to providing those first-time expectations, you want to make sure that you're supporting through the life cycle. Check in, offer prompts or templates, and ensure you're keeping that momentum going, at least for as long as that determined engagement is set to last. And finally, measurement. We don't just want to say, hey, pats on the back, we had a great mentoring program, on to the next. Let's make sure it's working. Track your participation and your outcomes so you can refine the program and every subsequent year or month that you might be running a mentoring program, that you're building upon those successes and maybe leaning away from anything that didn't necessarily work. When you approach mentoring with this more thoughtful structure, it really becomes a more repeatable and scalable source of connection and impact. Finally, moving on to the mentoring life cycle. So really, how do you keep pairs or groups actively engaged once the mentoring begins? We've got a couple interesting proven tactics from real customers that we can dig into for a moment here. The first is an easy one, program kickoffs. As soon as you have all of your mentors and mentees on board, it really doesn't hurt to host an orientation event or even just a webinar to build some energy, get everyone on the same page, make sure you're all pulling in the right direction. From there, it doesn't hurt certainly to have checkpoints throughout the mentoring experience as a whole. Providing milestone prompts or conversation starters at set points throughout the relationship is a great way to keep things fresh and take a hand in driving that conversation. Also recommend feedback loops. Quick surveys here and there can help measure satisfaction and make sure that we're not letting a mentor relationship go stale. If any need for course correction is in the picture, it doesn't hurt to have an advance notice of that before maybe letting a mentorship relationship stagnate for a couple weeks. Recognition is also a key part of making sure that the mentoring life cycle is rolling along. Celebrating great mentors or successful matches in your community is an awesome way to give recognition where it's due, but also make sure you're building up hype for that next eventual matching round. If anyone isn't a mentor this time around and they see a mentee who maybe landed a dream job out of this relationship, it's a great way to build a little bit of excitement for the next matching round. And finally, layered engagement is a pretty exciting one. This is the ability to connect mentoring to groups, events, journeys, other modules within your Hivebrite ecosystem to create a much more holistic experience where everything feels a little bit more cohesive and tied together. As a little bonus here, we also included empowering your mentors. So giving these folks the tools, templates, and clear expectations to pick things up and run on their own, even though depending on the matching type, you as an admin might have a little bit more of a hand in creating these relationships. There's really a lot of merit to empowering your mentors to really make it their own, bring a piece of themselves to these relationships, and make sure you're not just trying to fit them into a little box. Uh, but hey, I've done a lot of blabbing over the last 10 or so minutes here. I don't want to take any more airtime just talking through slides. I'd really like to pass things over to my good colleague Jan, who is going to walk us through a live demo and show us exactly how mentoring works in Hivebrite. So with that said, Jan, please take it away.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction, Jake. Before I begin, I just want to make sure, can everyone see my screen? Perfect.
Sure.
Oops. Sorry. So today I was hoping to give you guys a little demo of an example of what you can do with mentoring within Hivebrite. So like Jake said earlier, one of the things you need to first think about when you're thinking about your mentoring strategy is how are you guys going to do recruitment? So naturally you can think about doing email campaigns, having digests and things like that. But one of the benefits of having mentoring within your Hivebrite community is that you're really able to kind of inject the mentoring experience into the community experience as a whole. So this example here, I have a lobby for an alumni of a community, and another lobby for a student of a community. Using the segmentation that Hivebrite already offers, you can actually tailor fit the different marketing materials that your users get on their landing pages, on different custom pages, and even their navigation bar here on top. So as you can see, both of these pages are landing pages, meaning they're the first page that your users see when they log into your platform. And here on the left, you have a completely different and tailored message for your alumni who you want to be mentors, usually. And on the right here, you have a completely different image, text, and even link for your students who you're trying to push into becoming mentees. At the top here, you'll also see that you can tailor fit the navigation menu depending on who your user is. So as you can see here, students have an option for the mentoring program of 2024 and the peer advising program. Oops, sorry. And you can see here for alumni, it's a completely different option as well. What's really cool about this is you can even tailor fit the description and landing pages of your mentoring program depending on who you're inviting to your program as what. Meaning potential mentors can get a completely different page with different information, different testimonials, and different images, media compared to your mentees or your potential mentees who are also interested in joining. So this is really good because most of your users who are coming in as a mentor versus users coming in as a mentee are expecting two completely different value propositions that they would get from the program. So with this, you're really able to tailor fit, your messaging and what you want them to know about your program and what they can expect in your program. So first, let's apply as a mentor. You can easily put a little apply now call to action here, leading them to the mentor application form. So the mentor application form we have has a few different parts. The first one here is the description part. This is where Jake was mentioning it a little bit before. You can kind of start empowering your mentors to know what to expect in the program. You can even give them a little link to some guidelines here on, some best practices on how to deal with mentees, how to set up virtual events, and things like that. Just give it a second. This is a demo environment, so it's not completely here. So you can use our different modules like news articles, or you can even make prettier and more robust pages using our custom page builders. And after that, right below the description, you'll be able to create your own targeted custom fields. So these are the questions that you need to ask your prospective mentors in order to have the information to say, yes, they would be a good mentor. No, maybe we need more information, or so on and so forth. So you can basically ask anything that you want. Once they fill it out, they can click send. And you as an admin would get an automatic notification letting you know, hey, you have a pending application. It's ready for your review. Go check it out. And it's the same here on the mentee side as well. You can create a little mentee application form completely separate from your mentor application form. So this means that you can make custom fields only for mentees directed for them. And it's the same thing. You can give them a little description, a heads up on what to expect, maybe some terms and conditions and things like that. And after that, you can ask them like tailored and really direct questions. So now that you have your applications, how are you guys going to manage all of them? So you can do it here in the back office. You simply need to go to your mentoring program. You can click on the mentor or mentees tab, and you'll have a list of all your prospective and accepted mentors and mentees. So if you're in the part of your program where you're still looking at all the applications, you have this really cool filter here that shows you only the pending mentors. So you can see these are all the applications I need to go over and I need to accept or reject. And when you click manage, you see all the information that they had previously sent you. And you can easily say, yes, they can be a mentor. No, they can't be a mentor. Or, maybe they can be a mentor. Let them reapply. So depending on what you say, when you click save, that status is saved and your prospective mentor or mentee gets an automated communication that you can set up yourself in the back office. So maybe I can just quickly show you guys how those communications look like. So we have a ton of automated communications to make sure you're able to tailor your messages at every step of the process with your mentors and mentees. One of the really interesting ones here is the user notifications for mentor application approval. So this is really cool because this is another way for you to start training and giving guidelines to your mentors. In this example, I'm not sure if everyone is uh, familiar with this module, but we have something called journeys. And it's mainly used as like an onboarding tool for a lot of our communities. So what's cool here is when you accept a mentor, they automatically get this email notification and they are automatically prompted to start a journey about how to be a mentor. So you can use different news articles, external links, images, videos, so on and so forth to better train your mentors and to better give them an idea of what to expect. One other really cool feature that we have is our user list feature. So what that feature does is it allows you to create dynamic user lists of users that have done a certain action. So you can create one as well for users that have, just joined the program, and you can automatically add them to a group. And groups in Hivebrite, they're super, super interesting and super, super powerful. So this is just one example that you can do with your mentoring group. This is where your strategy can kind of come into play and where the guide kind of happens. So first you can give them like a step one, get started. This is what the mentoring program is all about. This is our vision. This is our impact, some testimonials, things like that. And then you can invite them to a training session or an event. Usually these are like mixers or more tailored training sessions for mentors. You can even let them go over like mentor resources, give them a little toolkit of like, just in case you need to know, tips to be a great mentor, a guide for mentoring, and things like that. And you can even create a little resources section here where they would have forums, maybe access to some exclusive opportunities that are only for those like in the program, some media center files, and even some news articles. So what's really cool about, maybe I can show you the user list function in the back office. What's really cool about that user list feature is that you can even use it to make tailored communication campaigns. So this is kind of like how you can start uh, getting information like throughout the program, getting feedback. With that list, you can send them different surveys, different questions on, hey, how's your relationship going? Is there anything you need help on? Things like that. And at the end, you can even, when you close the program, you can send them a communication asking them, how did you find it? Like, would you apply again for the next round? Like, how can we improve? So it's a really, really cool feature that I hope it loads, that we highly, highly recommend. So it's here. So with this little feature, you can create a user list specifically for users in a specific program, what, how they are in the program. Are they mentors with mentees? Are they just accepted mentors, mentors that are still on pending? Or are they mentees with mentors, mentees that are on pause, terminated mentees, and things like that? So we really think this feature gives you the flexibility to really fit the mentoring program to your specific strategy and to your specific needs. And I think that's it for me. Jake?
Awesome. Thanks so much for the demo, Jan. I even just wanted to point out, if you happen to be leveraging these user lists, a really cool way to use that in tandem with some other Hivebrite features. If you want to set up a recurring email campaign that goes at the same cadence that you happen to be running mentoring programs, it's a really easy way to set and forget maybe outreach to mentee applicants who needed to share a little bit more information or anything like that, where you don't have to meticulously manage every single mentoring program you might be running. But yeah, this has been an awesome demo, Jan. Really appreciate you walking us through it. I know we had a couple of questions come in from the audience, so I'd love to spend a little bit of time maybe digging into those as they come through. I'll be relying on our trusty moderators to send me a couple of the juicier questions, but maybe to kick things off, I did see one that really perked my ears up here. If we want to use both Orbit Flash mentoring and longer term mentorships, how do we recommend integrating them, or will they exist solely separately in Hivebrite? This is a really good question, and it's one that I think we've seen a lot ever since Hivebrite acquired Orbit about a year ago now. If you're not familiar, Orbiit is an AI-powered matchmaking tool that we've used to really enhance the one-to-one connection capabilities throughout the Hivebrite platform. Where I would say it differs from mentoring is really that, and I don't want to be overly prescriptive here because everyone has different use cases, but the way I view it is Orbiit is extremely powerful when it comes to creating those curated matches on a one-off basis. So as an example, I really like it potentially for icebreakers prior to a big in-person event, especially if you might have a community that's maybe, I don't want to say antisocial, but a little less talkative, who maybe needs a little extra TLC to come out of their shells. The last thing you want is, a bunch of people awkwardly hanging out on a trade floor, not knowing anyone, not knowing what to talk about. So giving them an opportunity to go through an orbit matchmaking to find someone who, in some way, shape, or form, resonates with them on a more meaningful level than just, yeah, we're both in the same online community. That's a really great way to build an organic connection that frankly probably wouldn't happen otherwise, or at least without a good bit of luck or hand-holding. Mentoring, I view those as a little bit more long-term engagements where Orbit is great for a one-off. Of course, there is an opportunity to continue that conversation if both parties feel it was meaningful, but there's typically not a curriculum that goes along with it or a long-term plan. Whereas mentoring is really something to look at from a long game, whether it's a month or a year or anything in between. It is typically a more committed engagement than we would see coming out of an Orbiit matchmaking round. In terms of how they might coexist, I don't think it's crazy at all to think that there could be opportunity for, say, Orbiit speed dating almost, if you want to explore, hey, there's 20 mentors in the system. I'd love to get an idea of really who's speaking my language and what the most meaningful match could be for me. So I think there is definitely some synergy there, but broadly speaking, I do think they serve slightly different use cases. Jan, if you have anything you'd like to add to that, feel free to take it away. I'm just looking at some more questions that have come in.
No, you said it perfectly, Jake. Usually with mentoring programs, we see a lot more structure, a lot more guidelines, a lot more rules. Typically, we see them run for like a couple months, where there are multiple touch points between mentors and mentees, where Orbit is, as you said, a lot more, quick, flash, introductory, and things like that. You said it really well. Thank you.
Awesome. I see another question that came through is, are there templates for the pages like we were showing? And for the most part, I would say yes. I know, Jan, you were showing a blend of more templated pages as well as more custom pages. But generally speaking, within Hivebrite, we do offer a number of templates. We do have the ability for you to save your own templates if that is something that you're looking for. Um, I think that feeds into another. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jan.
Additionally, we also have professional services. So if any of our templates aren't really to your liking, or you want a template that's a lot more tailored to your branding, please reach out. We have a lot of professional designers that are ready to build a page for you.
That's a great shout. And I think there was probably another question about just overall. I think someone was asking, is there a way that we can better come up with questions for matching mentors and mentees? I would say that's another place, maybe not Hybrid design services, but we do also offer community strategy services where if you really want to dial in your mentoring program, uh, having an engagement with one of those specialists is definitely not a bad place to start. Um, I guess to that end, I did see another question come in. We use Hivebrite for mentoring, but we have a challenge where participants must apply to each program separately, and they can't share information across programs, which can create some repetition. And I think that's totally understandable. I think if there is a piece of information that broadly governs a vast majority of your mentoring engagements, it probably doesn't hurt to have that living in the customer profile or the user profile, where it's a little more evergreen, a little more accessible, regardless of what program someone might be applying to. I would say, and again, this is me coming in without having really any awareness of the use case, but generally speaking, if we're running multiple different mentoring programs, I would say there should be a distinct purpose for each one, right? Where if we're asking the same set of questions for each mentor program that we're running, at some point I'm running, well, I'm wondering how does this differ from mentoring program A, B, and C? How are we really differentiating the benefit of participating in this one mentoring program versus others? Why are we asking the same questions when they're not part of the static user profile? Honestly, this question probably warrants a little more conversation. So I would totally encourage you, reach out to your CSM. Um, Hybrid community services can be a great way to address some of these bigger questions. But to your point, today at least, we don't have a way of pushing answers from one program into another. I think using the user profile is really what would supplement that. Jan, feel free to chime in as I'm just reading through other questions here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jake. For the question on having the same custom fields on programs, typically we're seeing different programs with a specific topic in mind. For example, one community could have a program dedicated for women, like a women supporting women kind of program. Sometimes we have one for LGBTQ or for veterans. And for that, the questions are definitely a lot more tailored to the specific use case of like what would make someone a good mentor for a women's launchpad or a women's program completely different from what would make someone a good mentor at a veterans program. So it's really about having the value propositions of your different programs, you know, clearly outlined, like you have this program to solve this need, another program for another need, and then based on that you start to see that the information you need is completely unique and completely different.
Thanks for the additional context there, Jan. I don't want to I guess change course too much here because I know this is a mentoring webinar. However, we've got a couple more questions coming in about Orbiit that I do want to circle back to. The first one being, is this an add-on for Hivebrite? Easy answer is yes, it is. It's not included in Hivebrite base packages, but we do offer it at a competitive rate. If you're interested in learning more, you can absolutely reach out to your CSM. They'd be happy to run you through a demo of the full product suite. Another question on Orbiit is, well, actually, maybe this isn't so much Orbiit, but still valid. Would I have to build a completely separate website for students, or can they access select web pages related to mentoring? How would students be able to access Hivebrite? Would they need to sign up? So, bit of a loaded question there. First and foremost, I would say yes. If anyone's participating in mentoring, they would need to have a profile on Hivebrite. We need to have a persona in the system that we compare them to. Um, Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for us to manage those relationships on the back end. As far as would you need to build a completely separate website for students? Great question. No, probably not. Um, Certainly an option if you did want to create a completely on its own instance, but even then, you would probably need to have the mentors living in it as well. Thankfully, Hivebrite offers a ton of tools for partitioning different experiences, where if you wanted to have a custom landing page just for students, and then you wanted to have a different landing page for alumni or mentors, whatever the case might be, you can very easily curate that in your back office. There's a number of different ways to say, hey, this option is visible to folks who fit these criteria, but maybe not visible to others. So there's a lot of different opportunities we have to build very unique experiences within the same web instance. So it's a great question. I don't think you should have any concern over potentially inviting mentors and mentees, whatever shape either party might take, into the same instance as long as you build up those clear partitions.
And thanks so
I
much for sharing that, Jake. Sorry to cut you off there. Do you want to finish your
No,
thought?
I was just going to say I don't see any other questions, so I can probably pass it back to Morgan. So you read my
No,
mind.
absolutely. We did get one more question, and I'm wondering, Jan, if you'd be the right person to answer this. Could you give us a little bit more detail about what fields can go into the matching process? So folks are asking, what details? Is it profile, or how are those questions seeded? And are there any plans for mentoring in the future to bring in more data? Do you mind speaking to that?
Yeah, sure. So most of the mentoring questions that you can add on to the form are specific to the program itself. So this is because, like we mentioned earlier, Jake and I, that when you ask a question on your mentoring forms, they need to be really targeted, that you know you need to ask those questions. Like users aren't super happy to have a really long form and you ask a bunch of questions and it takes some time to fill them up. So definitely that's something we encourage, having a specific and really tailored question format for your application forms. That said, though, there are some user profile information that have a strong impact on, you know, someone's potential to be in a program. And we've added that on to the mentoring profile, and that's location and skills for now. So these two fields were identified at first because we were seeing a lot of mentors and mentees that wanted to see each other in person. So the location field, it's something that should be part of your user profile anyway, and so that's why we made the decision to have it on mentoring as well. And it's the same with the skills. You know, what are the skills that you have that would make you a good mentor? So that was something we thought would also be pretty helpful for you admins to make the decision of, does this user belong with this mentor or with this mentee, and should they even be a part of the program? The rest of the questions that I showed you guys in my demo, those are all fields you have complete control over. So we allow you to create 6 types of custom fields. They're text fields, Booleans, numeric fields, date fields, selects, and double select fields. Sorry if it's a bit too into the weeds or technical,
No,
but
perfect.
those are the things in your toolbox that you can ask. So depending on what information you need, you know, maybe the date of their availabilities or the things like that, you can have a range of options of types of questions to ask.
Mm.
I hope that
Thank
answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you all for submitting so many questions. We didn't get to everyone's questions, but Allie and I will be following up. If you didn't ask anonymously, we'll also be sending out following our call, because this is a wrap. We'll be sending the recording via email. We'll also be sending out some supporting resources, and you'll in the follow-up email, you'll get a link to share your feedback for how this session went for you today. So we hope this session was really helpful to you, and it helped formulate some structure and hopefully gave you some energy as you're starting to think about building your own mentoring program or how to improve your mentoring program. So thank you again for attending, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
day.